Hello. Oh, I think so. Yeah, I heard audio coming through, and so I had to turn down my phone because I'm on one bar of cellular in the dungeon. So, and if everyone's wondering where I film and do everything, it's a room in my basement that's not quite finished, and it's very close to a cement wall, so I get almost no cell service. So I call it the dungeon. That It is, but that's why I call it the dungeon because there's no copyright infringement with Chris. They're saying they're getting no audio from you. So, but you hear Greg, is that correct?
Hello? There, that's gonna be better. Hi. Hi, everybody. Hey, Raymond. Um, yeah. Hello, everybody in the chats. We got Pierre, we got SPC3D, Stig, Raymond, and Raymond says, there. Yeah, it's
Okay,
important
so
not to mute your mic.
yeah,
If you,
that kind of helps.
yeah,
But
if you click the
yeah,
mute button, it's not gonna do it.
yeah. So you didn't hear half the conversation, but that's okay.
So,
We're going now.
yeah, I mean, the best is yet to come.
Yeah.
Oh man, so like,
Hey
how?
Vince.
Oh, Vince. Hey. So my week, like, we're gonna talk about it in a bit, but like, I was actually pretty busy with 3D printing this week and upgrading. Um,
Yes, you took the week off of work.
yeah, I don't know if it was like, it didn't feel like a total week off, but like, you know, it was good. It was good. Vacation is always good. So last week, I want to say it was last week or the week before, we were talking about how um, Prusa release client, our candidate
Two.
2 was out,
Yeah.
and like the
They
scuttlebutt
were
was that was it,
Yeah,
right?
they were originally saying that was it. That was the same release. But now we have release candidate 3.
Whoa, are you saying there was another release candidate?
Yeah, there was a couple
Oh,
bugs. A lot of them were seemed to be related to Linux.
hmm.
So there's nothing groundbreaking. There's no feature changes.
Yeah, like if you had
It's a
RC2,
stability.
it's the same. Like,
Yeah, I upgraded and it was seamless to upgrade. So
um, yeah, and again, we mentioned it last week. For you guys, talk louder. My truck makes too much noise. Ah, ahead to BC wide low. Oh, nice. We're trucking to BC. I know where that is. Like in general, it's beside us.
yes,
But
yes, it is not far away.
yeah, like when you actually look at the GitHub for the release client 3, it, there's really, like you say, like it's Linux specific changes. Like the first 4 lines or 5 lines are Linux
I think there's
fixes.
one Windows fix.
So they fixed the drag and drop. Some people were having an issue that they couldn't actually bring objects into Slicer just by dropping it out of the folder.
I never had that.
Me neither. I never actually suffered that issue. Let's see, and then the one that was for everybody was thumbnail generation.
Yeah, so
That
it was again minor stuff, but yeah, it works pretty good. So I printed a couple benchies, turned on a few features. I realized my last benchy I was playing with, I I had turned on monolithic, which gives a really nice flat surface on your any of your decks and any totally flat surfaces. It's pretty nice.
Mhm.
Then if you want it like to look like glass, you turn on ironing.
Yep.
So I turned on ironing, and unfortunately had a had had a problem with the top of the smokestack. It ironed off the edges of the one layer.
So,
So
if you guys,
so
ironing's
so
been around for a long time in Kira, but it's a new feature for Prusa, and
yeah.
yeah,
So
basically just smashes that hot end into the
yeah.
top, right? And I could see
Yeah.
like that little smokestack, like you say, like that's pretty small. So
It
when it
if you
goes to
want a
iron it,
flat if you want to if your final surface is mostly perfectly flat, then I think ironing is a good choice because I did the stand here,
mm-hmm.
and the side that I ironed, it's like glass. It's amazing, I gotta say.
I have one of those somewhere around here too. Um,
Yeah,
those stands, I
it,
painted one.
yeah,
Vernon,
that's
he
where
says. Vince is on his way to Vernon. That's crazy.
Vernon.
Yeah. I haven't been to Vernon since I presented at the last Google Summit out there. That was a long time ago. But and
I go to Creston lots.
yeah, well, Creston's fun, and there's that 3D printing place out there. It's not actually a
Yes,
shop, guys. It's like literally an
it's
industrial 3D printing place.
yeah. He does props for movies.
It's
Like
pretty
there
sweet.
was a full size um, Shrek and a full size the original RoboCop there, and he's been doing this for a number of years. So it was pretty amazing to see. Most of the stuff I wasn't allowed to take pictures of when I was there because he's got NDAs on all of them, but I can say it was pretty amazing.
It, yeah, all we could tell you is it was cool.
I did take a video of his I wonder if I could bring it up. Doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't matter.
Maybe
Yeah.
next time. He has a $1 million, at least that's what it cost him at the time. Um, se- 7 axis CNC robot arm, and he can do 12 or 15 foot solid marble sculptures with it, and it goes go around and carve it. It's like amazing.
Yeah, and I think like I know when you first went, we talked about it a little more too, but I can't remember if we saw video. But that's okay. That's okay.
Well, maybe for the next live stream, I'll find it, and it's just a he just moves it around a bit just to show it off, and I can't show you any of the other
he
stuff.
could show the motion of the machine. That's it. That's it.
I can't say that he's done anything for any galaxy far, far
Well,
away,
then don't. You're
or
gonna get in trouble.
something.
Stop talking.
So,
Just kidding. Um,
or some battles of galactic proportion.
yeah. See, now you're gonna get in trouble. So this week on Facebook, we got a few private messages coming for some questions, but it was really a week of PID, I think,
Yep.
for configuration in Marlin, even afterwards, like on, I don't know if a lot of you guys know this, but in Marlin, in config dot advanced, I want to say, like in config.h, you can enable your bed PID and your hot end PID.
Correct.
In config.advanced, and this is where I say I think, and I should look it up, but there's actually a PID menu you can enable for your controller.
Actually, they moved it to
Is it
config.h.
in
You
H
can,
now?
yeah, you can actually turn it on
Okay.
there. It's
But the PID menu on your controller lets you do it without having to know like the M303 cycle G code and that stuff.
yeah,
So, but it is in there. But like we've heard some issues with, and I experienced them too. So let's see here. Check new bug fix level quarter with probe. Yeah. Vince just has check new bug fix level corners with probe. Yes. So it's the was it M34? No, G34. Do you remember your gantry level? You can do it with a BL Touch now.
Yeah, G34.
Yeah.
That's what I and that's a video that I will be putting out. That's actually probably my next video. I'm gonna just sit down and
do it.
write a quick script and maybe just get that out so that people are aware of how useful it is.
So if you guys aren't aware, though, back to the off the rabbit hole of leveling, back to PID. So PID is important. Your hot end will use it all the time. If you don't have the PID enabled on your hot end, you're doing it wrong. And for some reason, we just lost Greg's video.
Well, I have some VS Code.
Oh, okay.
So that I could show you.
Hold on, guys. I'm gonna get some.
I sorry, I should have queued you up.
Yeah, no.
I should have queued you up ahead of time.
It's okay. Everybody can watch the giant Greg Skype video for a second. Anyway, Greg's got VS Code going there. And your little picture is not you. Okay. Okay, go for it.
So
oops. Oh goodness.
Your video, but line 537, 39 in my Marlin config has the bad PID, and this is what Pierre was looking at. He sent me his config. He had 10, 20, and 30 in here. I think he put them in there for reference so that when he saved it, and he can correct his chat. When he saved it, it would flip back to his code, and then he could see that yes, 10, 20, 30 were set. But he didn't. The config file he sent me didn't actually have his PID values correct in it, and so I don't know if he sent me the wrong file or whatnot. But hopefully he's got that sorted out now, because definitely he had the correct spot in his firmware that he wanted to do. But yeah, we can switch back to. I will stop sharing.
Stop sharing and bring your face back for everybody. There it is.
There. Anyway, so that's just a quick. So he was asking for some help on that, and so he definitely had the right place where he was putting his settings in, but he had just the placeholder values in there. So
yeah, and I mean the. Oof.
We had some echo apparently.
Yeah, we just lost the YouTube feed. 1 sec.
No, I'm still seeing it.
Yeah, give it a minute. 1 second, guys. If you can hear me, we're just waiting for some stream
buffer.
Yeah, we got some buffer issue. And because right now I am sending 0 kilobits to YouTube. 0. I think that's here's a hand. Hi everybody. Let's just see how far off we are. Okay, well we will soldier forward. I'm not getting very good.
They said it's working on their end.
I think it's just gonna buffer it more, guys. So your questions might come in a little slower, or your comments. So that's all that will happen. So if you guys don't know, the PID settings. So if you wanted to tune your hot end or your bad with PID, the G-code command is M303. And then you basically get to pick your tool, the cycle, Working fine, working here. Awesome. Okay, we got a bunch of working. So I'm just gonna. So M303 is the command for auto tune. You would put E and then your tool, C, and then how many times you want to test. S is the temperature you want to set at, and everybody's like, "How are we going to remember all of this?" Because I'm typing it into chat. Boom.
and 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 there is also a great video that I believe you put out,
I
David,
did, yeah.
to that covers on how to
Mhm.
PID both. I think you did both your hot end and bed.
Yeah, so it actually I don't I think in that video it was just the hot end because I was replacing with a micro Swiss on an ender, so it was like
That's
tied
right.
to that. But if you wanted to do your bed PID instead of the E0, you would put E minus one. Minus one is the bed tool, and then obviously don't PID your bed to 210 degrees. That's bad. Um, tune it to
Yeah.
60 or 80 wherever your
Yeah,
Apache's at.
whatever you normally print at is the best PID. So
Yeah.
if you end up that you are switching and you want to use some, an enclosure and some other exotic material, then make sure that you re-PID to that temperature so that you have a consistent result when you're printing.
Yeah. And then one of the questions in the chat there I just saw was how important is it to PID your bed? Um, and that's an interesting question. So
I think we're of two minds on this.
I think we are. And my reasoning is probably different than your reasoning. I think that it is important. Um, so the reason I think we're of different minds is when my bed's PID in my room, the lights all flicker.
See, I don't have that problem.
Yeah, so like if I'm PIDing, and so then if my bed's PID, especially like the bigger ones like the CR10 and the SX4, the ones that are a little
Yeah.
more power hungry, they'll yeah, the lights flicker and it feels like you're in some sort of like warped dimension.
See, and I have found that PIDing like the ender doesn't seem to make much of a difference for me, but my Anycubic has a 413 by 430 bed, so it's quite big, and it made a bigger difference on that. I also actually had to go through the configuration.advanced, and there's in there for either your hot end or your PI or your bed heating. It has timeouts that it monitors your bed from. I had to adjust some of those too because I was getting thermal runaway with such a large bed because it was probing the temperature time not
Mm-hmm.
consistently.
Yeah.
So I had to adjust it so to increase the length that it was testing at. So I had to tweak that a bit, and that took a little bit of fine tuning. But once I had that done, I get a very consistent temperature on my bed,
Yeah.
on that big bed
Mm-hmm. And
with PID.
the PID tuning for the bed or the hot end increase the longevity of your device because it more accurately powers the device. Sorry, I was just reading Pierre's comment here. What G code would you go to save the settings? Pierre, if you look at the end of my statement there, I have that U. So in my statement, I put M303E0C5S210U. The U actually writes and saves the settings. You could fire an M500 after just to be sure, but the U will actually output the PID settings without having to write them yourself. So it automatically writes them. And then you can M500 and then.
Is that a new switch? Because I don't remember that one.
I don't know exactly. I think it's been there a while and we just didn't notice it. Um, but I when I was on the Marlin website, I don't know, a while back, it they had added it. So I was like, hey, that's good. It's
Okay.
really good.
So
Makes it easy.
so typically once I've PID'd and got my values, I will take those values and where I showed you on the VS Code, I will put them into my my firmware. So the next time that I do make a change to my firmware, it's writing the PID values for my hot end and bed that I have want, and I'm not going back to whatever the defaults were. So just keep that in mind. I mean, you can use Bang Bang for the bed if you want, but I personally I do like PIDing my bed.
Ever since Marlin 2.7, when and I guys, this week was the week of firmware for me. I think I wrote 5 different versions of 7. But like, yeah, it's I have switched all of mine from Bang Bang to PID. It's a little more efficient, and the light show isn't that bad. It's
Well,
entertaining.
and the key is if you have a stock printer and you aren't uh, someone who wants to mess with firmware or isn't comfortable with it, then you doing the command to add it to your start G code just before you start printing is probably a good way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's and again, like, it's slightly less efficient on a bed. So like on the heated bed, you're really not seeing as detrimental effects as you would on a hot end. So if
Yeah,
you don't PID your hot end and you use Bang Bang, you're gonna have a terrible time maintaining temperature, getting to temperature, right?
I agree.
And you're also going to run into the issue where things like if you're using the original PET tube or PTFE tube, I should say, in that hot in a Creality hot end or any hot end that's lined like that, you're going to overshoot your temperature so often that that tube's going to dig or disintegrate faster.
Well, yeah, and Vince had a good point in he's insulated his bed,
Mm-hmm.
and my Anycubic on the bottom has insulation, and so does my Creality Ender, or sorry, my Creality CR10 V2.
Yeah.
It has insulation, especially when you have a bigger bed, and they tend to really radiate heat out, and can just the edges can tend to get cold. So if you have some of that um, thermal insulation, it's kind of the metal aluminum looking stuff that has a sticky side
Yeah.
to put underneath. Oh man,
It
it makes a big
works
difference.
so
Even
good. Yeah.
even that's the one positive I could say about the Legend is the Legend came with the
Insulation.
insulation underneath the bed,
Yep.
and it keeps its temperature really well. Um, I've never really had a problem on my Ender though.
No, like on those smaller beds, like when you get into, let's say sub 250 in your bed size, like it's so small, it's gonna heat anyway. So Stig says I got a CR10S Pro. Are the only firmware source the tiny machine one? So, yeah, kinda.
Yeah, kind of.
You,
So yes and no. Do you want your screen working? Yes. If you don't care about your screen, or you don't mind putting on a different
yep.
screen, um, you can put your own custom Marlin on there and it works just fine. The I have at work that I've been playing with a CR10 Max,
Which is the
which
same.
has it's basically the same printer with the same screen. They use a DWin programmable screen, and unfortunately, they don't have any open source config for that screen, and you've really got to tweak it and stuff to make it work. So Um, I I either want to put a rotary encoder classic screen on it so that I can still do some interaction with it, or I just run it headless with no
Yeah.
screen, and it definitely works better. Um, the other option is change the board out to something like a Big Tree Tech, but the board works fine.
Yeah,
The
it's
my biggest beef
8-bit controller.
is the gantry on the Max is so heavy that it constantly is falling, and I have to readjust it. And because it doesn't have separate stepper drivers on the
Mm-hmm.
Z, I can't do the auto gantry level before I print. And and that's the G34 that we were talking about. So I will do a video on that, and I'll probably expand on the issues. So
Yep.
that's the only thing I would change on that is I would like a second Z stepper to allow the auto gantry leveling, which I think is necessary on any printer that has a really large gantry with some weight to it to keep it even though we have backlash nuts on it, it still
Yeah,
drops.
it's pretty bad. But yeah, Vince says he uses hot water tank pipe insulation. I had to read that twice because I'm like, but pipes are small. My
No, no,
the
no, no. The hot
action.
water tank stuff is the aluminum
Yeah,
stuff.
it's good
It's
stuff.
good stuff.
And then Pierre says, in regard to the question, yeah, so you can put an SKR wherever you want in.
They
The
both use
they
Marlin.
both, yeah, even the board that's in there right now uses Marlin, which if de facto Creality should be releasing the source code for that board under the EULA and the end user license for Marlin. So if you were to say email Creality and you wanted that source code, they have to give it to you.
And honestly, it was not hard to create a config
Mm.
for that board. The biggest frustration was fighting to try to get the screen to work with that because there is some DWIN screens options in Marlin,
Yep.
but that particular one is not. And it would be great if someone could add it because obviously Tiny Machines has done it,
Mm-hmm.
but they haven't released really how they did it.
So that's where it gets into a bit of a gray area, right? Like the Marlin config itself on the board, totally, it should be out there. There should be no reason that we don't see
Yeah.
that right now. Their
And it
screen
works.
config, that one's a little bit different, and but there is how there is documentation
Yeah.
on the DWIN screen there. So if you guys aren't familiar, like the screen, the touch screen on the Pro, Pro Max, anything with that little beepy touch screen is a DWIN screen, and so is the new. Words are hard, Greg. So is the new Ender 3 V2. It's a DWIN.
Yeah.
So I'm just
But the Emitter 3 V2, I do believe it's configurable
mhm.
in Marlin properly, whereas the CR10 Pro and the Max and what was the other one? The X
Yeah, the
maybe.
CRX
Uh,
was the
yeah, those ones that screen, they went to a different screen with the other one, so you can't easily configure it, which is frustrating. I really like the Big Tree Tech screens, the way they've done theirs,
mhm,
because you can customize it
however you want.
to till the cows come home, and it works
Yep.
really well. But trying to integrate a Big Tree Tech screen with the actual board didn't work so well because the way they implement their serial connection to the screen is quite a bit different, and I'm not sure what protocol they're using. So
Yeah.
I couldn't really get that screen LCD screen connector to transfer data. So
Yeah, and
it was kind of
I'm
so
just
so
gonna
I just gave up and went
I'm
headless
popping to
and
screen
use
share here, Greg.
Octoprint.
Just so you know, we're popping to screen share land. Except this time your head won't disappear. Yeah. So just on that topic, here is the download that's right from Creality, and this is what you get. You get a zip. You get a file
Yeah, Stig, that would
that says mainboard and screen, and the hexes are already built, so you actually don't get any source. So yeah, that's what Creality needs to release the source since it's using Marlin. What do we got here? Sorry, Stig said something, right?
yeah, no, he just said that he has a SKR E3 V2 board with that has two separate Z motor drivers or Z motor drivers.
Yeah,
Um, and he just needs some extension cables and it should work, and that will work.
it will.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Yeah.
the V2. One second. I want to look at some. So the V2 board in the Ender is the Creality version 4.22 board. Um, so that board, it's not a bad board. We learned some things about flashing it. For example, you
Yep.
have to use the custom Creality board. So you can't use the STMF generic chip. There's actually like a Creality underscore STMF chip in there. But the one thing that I think I recall, and I want to make sure I recall it correctly, Greg, is although it has two ports, I think they are leg to one driver. One,
Well,
one,
on
two,
the
three, four.
Creality one,
Yeah.
yes, the Creality one, they don't they left off the um, E1 chip, so you can't use the second um, Z on that. That's why he was saying that he was thinking using the SKR board because
Actually, it looks like
the
they've added the E1 chip.
no, it looks like it, but if you physically look at the board, they've left the chip off. They do that. They save money by leaving the one chip you need, the driver chip,
Mm-hmm.
off.
I wish I would have took a picture before that printer um, took the long walk. The 4.27 board just has four steppers.
Yeah,
Um,
they Creality is notorious for only putting four steppers on
yeah.
their machines.
So so when you do see the two spots, usually they're like together, like in the
Yeah,
version 2 board originally. But yeah, I mean it'll work fine. It will work. It's just so for stuff like Greg was talking about doing the G34 video. You can't do that if the drivers are like together.
yeah,
So you need
yeah. So
separate.
I'll go over the minimum requirements needed to do it, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, and you guys, like my biggest printer, so the SX4, I think that's the biggest printer.
Yep.
Yep. So my SX4, um, it originally came with the wiring all shoved into one JST connector for both Y or both Z, I should say, steppers, and I just left it that way. I didn't separate them, so it will
Didn't you
work.
fix it though?
I haven't ordered the driver yet.
Eventually. Oh,
I have to
okay.
order a driver.
I thought you had fixed
No,
it.
I need to get a 20, probably a 2208 just to match what's in there, but maybe a
Yeah.
2225. Who knows? See how it goes.
No, match it.
Um,
Match it.
yeah, it just makes it easier to configure, right? Because when you're in configuration H and you're going through all your stuff, it's like 22, like on the CR10, it's like 2209s except the extruder. So then it's like,
Mhm.
oops, I did it wrong. But think,
Yeah, I prefer you don't have to match, but I prefer to match. It's just
well, it's like OCD, right? Like
yeah.
all of them have to be the
It
same.
no, it's CDO. You have to put the letters in the right order.
It's EDO. I love it. Um, while we're on the topic of printers and SX4 and some of those things, um, around once a year I get all gung ho and crazy and I do my printer maintenance. But this year I actually did mods and upgrades. So I wanted to take a moment, folks, to define what's a mod and what's an upgrade. Creality connectors, would you know where to buy them or have? Yeah, so you can get those JST connectors off of Amazon.
Yep.
Greg bought a big box off of Amazon.
Well, okay, but I bought. It's a big box, but this box isn't this one's the fancier ones that have the locking clip.
Oh yeah.
So these are the really high end ones with the locking clip. I need to get some of the standard GST ones. I have a nice crimping kit too that works really
Yeah.
well
Here,
and what.
here, here you
So
go, Pierre. Right in the chat for you. So those ones, like, we're not sponsored by anything, so that's a rando
the
Amazon link.
random.
Yep. So mods versus upgrades. If your printer is working fine and you want to change anything to it, probably a mod. But a mod
I would
can,
say yeah.
like, mods and upgrades can kind of fall on walk the line together. Like
Well,
we've
I'd upgrade to me without modding would be like your micro Swiss that you did.
right, and that's an upgrade. My up words are hard. I got this. Hold on. My upgrade to the micro Swiss was a necessity too. I had blown out the hot end. Speaking of Greg, I've got some filament here for you, buddy.
No, I do not want that filament.
Anyway, so that was a upgrade, like the flex steel plates. I would just
Yep.
those are upgrades, right? Um, Changing your printer to direct drive on an Ender 3.
That's a mod.
That's a mod.
Yeah.
So it's not bad to do a mod, but I think it's important that we in our mind know the difference between the two, because oftentimes we say we've upgraded something and it's really hard, especially like in a public forum, for anybody to help you if you're like, well, I upgraded my printer to this. For example, like, hey, I upgraded my extruder. Okay, to what?
Yeah,
Right?
if you're taking your factory extruder and going from plastic to metal, that's an
Yep.
upgrade. That's not a mod.
No.
If you're completely changing the type of extruder motor and everything that goes away from factory spec,
Yep.
then it's a mod.
Yeah. So yeah, like when you rip the extruder off, switch it with a pancake driver, throw it on the uh, x-axis, and call it a direct drive. All of that's a mod now. It's a
Yeah.
sweet mod, and I gotta say, Greg's missing out because
I have a
his backplate hasn't come yet, guys. So we can't do that video.
I have the
Well,
Chimera
no, I mean,
right back
I
there.
mean the Ender one
I have
that we're
direct drive.
doing. Well,
Oh yeah.
right,
Well,
you're
yeah.
missing out there. But so we said it last week. One of the mods that I did this week of my Ender was printing, or not printing, was doing the direct drive. So at the beginning of the video, you guys all saw my build plate full of all those little calibration guys. Everything but the green one was printed on the direct drive for the video coming. Um, it was easy. It's simple. You lose some functionality though, so we'll talk about that a little bit later once we do the full video. But that's one thing that that's a mod that works. Um,
Yeah. There's lots of mods that work. I mean, whether you want to add now linear rails, that would be a
that's a
mod,
mod.
right?
Yep.
You're going from V wheels to linear rails. That's definitely a mod.
I think one could
So there,
argue like on it's definitely a mod, but like you could argue in some cases, like if your I don't know, if your extrusion came bent, right, or something like that,
yeah,
it could be an upgrade too. But
that's more of a repair at that point. Yeah.
that's very true.
And by going to something that's more exact, like linear rail, Tom had a really good video where he added linear rails to a Prusa,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually introduced introduced some like the quality was almost the same, but you could see that it introduced
Artifacts.
some artifacts because it was allowing it to be more rigid.
Yeah. So
So there's something to be said for not having so rigid
yeah.
versus, so you got to watch your mods. Like you have to decide, you have to do your research and see, um, will this substantially increase your quality, or will it be like, eh, because some mods don't make a big change. And you have to also, I mean, mods are fun. So if you're doing it for the fun aspect, it doesn't matter. But if you're having um, a major problem with quality, you may want to look at a mod if that's appropriate. And it depends, right? It's so there's so many factors to 3D printing that can vary.
Well, like the other day, Wednesday, I forget which day, Wednesday or Thursday, I was just doing basically maintenance. I added those stepper dampers, which is again, in my mind, the stepper dampers are an upgrade because they get rid of noise without actually changing the function of a printer. But again, um, a second extruder, yeah.
That would be a mod,
It's
typically, depending on how you do it, right? Well, I guess either way, it's a mod. Whether because a second extruder would be something like the IDEX,
yep,
or if you had a dual nozzle rather
yeah.
than single nozzle dual feed. So it's one of those things that
It can walk the
it can,
line there, right? Like,
yeah.
but I think it's important, like, uh, like when you do go down the mod or upgrade rabbit hole, um, uh, an upgrade fixes a direct problem that you're having with the printer, where a mod is like, I want to make this sweeter.
So Stiggett said he swapped his stock board for E3 Mini. That I would consider an upgrade.
Yep.
Bed springs also upgrade, and Surface on the Ender 3, I would say that's also an upgrade, not a mod
Yeah, totally.
necessarily,
And the reason, like,
because
upgrades,
you're
right?
just replacing parts one to one
Yeah.
in my
You
mind.
haven't, like, changed, like, you've changed things, obviously, but, like, from the outside, it still kind of looks the same. Um, like the switching the board out for sure upgrade because now you can you don't get ringing, ghosting, it's not loud, and you have a better processor, so that one definitely is an upgrade. The
Now, if he changed his enclosure that housed the
Yeah,
board
mod.
and had to move its location, then it becomes it changes from an upgrade to a mod.
And like it's interesting, right? Because let's use the teaching tech enclosure as an example on the Ender 3.
Yep.
That's a mod. It's a great mod, and it slides in the back. You can work on it, and it actually
And
solved a problem.
some mods are upgrades,
Would you go
right? Like
exoslide or linear rail? So
I would love to try the exo slide. To tell you
exoslides
the
are
truth,
interesting and
I,
cool.
I haven't I haven't experienced them, and I don't think David has either.
No, I mean they're an interesting concept. Uh, they happened just before the world ended. Um, so like I know right now getting stuff like that even across the border can take an extra 2 months for us.
Pierre says he uses exo slides. Do you like them? Like, I they look like they would be pretty darn good. So if you've got good extrusion, then I would think that they look very flexible too.
Yeah, and if you guys exoslides kind of take the V wheels and add more and enclose it around it, and it
Well, they
makes it
they
more stable,
eliminate
right?
the V wheels, right? Because they end up riding on
Like the
the
exoslide part.
yeah they um, right on outside of the V slot on the edges,
Yeah.
and they clip. They have a bearing kind of here and here. So when you clip it together, they're riding on both sides of the 2020 or 2040, and then when you clip the other piece in, so you've got bearings kind of all the way
Yeah,
around.
and I
So
got the
it's
website up
pretty
here
slick.
too for us to see. Again, not sponsored. Love to be sponsored, but not sponsored. But the Exo slides are modular little pieces here, and then you can see here's an example of them on like I think this is an Ender. Yeah. So then it just kind of rides the rail on those itty bitty. It's kind of yeah. It's yeah.
It's kind of halfway between going from linear rails, right? So it's very modular, the way you can clip it on and whatnot. So I want to I would like to actually see a video comparing V wheels versus exo slides, and I think you have more flexibility on what you can do with an exo slide
Mm-hmm.
because you can get it for various extrusion widths. I could see it being very beneficial for some Core XY because depending on how you mount your hot end, that could be beneficial. But
Yeah, I mean
it's
they can load bear better. So if you're going like doing direct drive mod, they can actually bear that weight a little better too. Um, would a ball screw on the Z improve the print quality of an ender? I wouldn't do it, but it
yeah,
could.
it could. I think it depends. You could also go with a point nine stepper instead of point 1.8.
Well, yeah,
um, because then you could more finely control your Z height, but then you got to change your steps and tweak it
yeah,
and whatnot.
and like a ball screw would the reason I say I wouldn't do it is because it's a bit like pricey is the wrong word, but it is pricey. It right now it seems like it would be a mod like
It would cost prohibitive.
yes. And if you have one kicking around and you want to do it, there's nothing wrong with it, but you would have to change how the Z works cuz you have to
And
get
you
a
might
different mounting points. You'd have to
you might lose some height too,
so
depending on it, because they're quite a bit wider, and so you there would be quite that would be quite a mod actually. I don't know if it would drastically improve the prints that
no.
much. And again,
I think
it depends. Like, because if you want to improve your prints, you can slow down your speed
it's
too,
true.
right? So it's do you want drastically improved 80 millimeter a second prints?
Well,
You know,
like doing the I think if you were to even look at like the kit that adds another Z lead screw on the other side, on an
yeah,
ender that might because then it balances the weight and it's driven on both sides, but it's such a small printer,
yeah.
it
It's
shouldn't need it.
I don't know. Yeah, you shouldn't need it. I think if you did something like the IDEX,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you're adding weights more weight to it and whatnot, I could see
Needing.
needing another Z lead
Yep,
screw. But yeah,
for sure.
but speaking of this, it's a good segue to the fact that I'm Core XZ curious. I really have been eyeing up the switch wire, the Voron switch wire, and it basically takes your Core XY kinematics and flips it on its side so that your um, X and Z are now operated by two
Yep.
steppers that then move it up, down, left, right, just like Core XY, but vertically. but your bed is still your standard kinematics with your Y.
Yeah.
So um, very cool. Um, Not sure if it would improve print quality or change it. I think it's just different.
Yeah, I think the
And
biggest thing is just losing that stepper driver.
well, and then you have no lead screws at
Yeah.
all,
Everything's
right?
done on
So
belt
so
tension.
everything's done on belt. Um, they actually had an issue when the motors turned off that the gantry would just go down. So they took the you know how you can get the key chains that janitors use, and they have their key, and
Mm-hmm.
they're on the extender, and it has a certain amount of
Yeah.
tension. Well, they actually incorporate that in to hold the gantry when the power's off.
Hmm.
So they figured out the weight and tension and whatnot. So it's kind of cool. So
That's
so yeah. So the Voron went from Core XY to having a standard Cartesian, but with Core XZ.
yeah.
It's kind of
It,
cool.
it well, it's more than kind of cool. It is cool. It's the only thing that I would say would be like um again, if you already had it, it would be neat. But like if you were to do a mod to change to it, we'd have to we'd really have to compare the print quality because I'm not sure it would do better than a ball screw, I think, for resolution. But I'm not sure like what the would it be leaps and bounds, you know?
And I don't know. I'm just I I I think the kinematics of how, if you look at your Predator,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right? You got three steppers that do X, Y, and Z, all with just three
Yep.
steppers moving. So having the different types of kinematics around is fascinating. I'd like to just. I don't have a Core XY.
Oh.
I would that's the one thing I don't have. So I would give up three of my printers to have a Delta and a Core XY. You
Well,
know, for sure.
we talked about the other day too. Is like maybe build a little one because man, you can make that thing fly.
Yeah, yeah, right. Like you could really, and you save a stepper motor
Mm-hmm.
um, with it and whatnot. So it's kind of neat.
Uh, why would you go? Oh, good question. And Core XY. Uh, so Core XY kinematics are similar to X. Well, we were just XE, but the the idea behind Core XY is two drivers drive basically your extruder head around, and the reason that you go Core XY probably in my head is speed,
Yes.
um, and um, and accuracy. But
And you now when you're doing Core XY, your bed does not move. Your bed is kind of like the Ender 5, right? It your bed
let
drops,
me hold on. Why is this
right?
not focusing? Focus.
So so
I got this.
so it's
There we go.
your bed is stationary, and the only thing that is moving is your head. But because it's driven by the two motors, um, it is quite fast.
Yeah.
Now, some Core XYs go Bowden, so then it lightens up your gantry even more. So in theory, you can go even faster. But a lot of Core XY um, do direct drive
You
also.
said
So it
doo
really, it
doo.
really
Doo
do do.
doo. Yeah. So like I fired I fired the a picture or of the NDI just so you know, Greg. I had that up over the NDI of the SX4 while we were talking. Um, so there was a reference to it. So yeah, so the bigger you go, the you do need two Z steppers. The bed gets heavy, so I forget what we measured. I think it was like 430, wasn't it? The Pisa glass on the SX4 was just
Yeah, I think it's like 430 by 430 or something,
so yeah, you need two Z steppers. You're looking at like
or more.
anti-backlash or more. Yeah, like if you did three, you could do the true auto level of your bed where it's tramming the actual bed, not just um, like bringing it into some sort of virtual level with the BL Touch.
Yeah.
I want to show this here. I don't know. Whoa. Oh, I got chroma key on. Check that out. 1 second, guys. I apparently have chroma key on my video source somewhere, which is going to be fun. So I printed on the filters. There's no filter there. Why is it chroma key? Transition. Huh?
Um, I don't know if the rubber coupler helps with the Z banding. The big thing, one of the things you can do, and Alex, uh, how do you say his last name? Kalanis? Anyway,
Yeah.
he has a ball bearing trick. So if you've got your stepper, you want to make sure that when you put the coupler on, that your rod isn't completely touching your motor, because your motor could be a different angle. So he suggests, and it's a pretty cool trick, you put a little ball bearing on top of the motor, so it's your rod sits slightly above, so that when the flex coupler flexes, that actually helps reduce your Z banding. So just check your coupler, make sure it's not forcefully all the way down on the top of your motor shaft. And you could do the ball bearing trick where you pop in the ball bearing into the coupler, and then you put your rod on top, so that there's a space, but it allows some flex. Because you do want flex, you don't want it completely rigid, because if for some reason your Z rod is a little warped, and you can throw it on a nice level table and roll it and see how smooth it is. If it is a little warped, you will pull the banding into your print. The other thing you can do is on your coupler, don't tighten the bolts on the coupler that is on the Z nut completely tight. Back them off a little bit so there's a little movement.
Yep.
So that'll help.
Um. So
That's right, Alex. Yeah, he's great. I like his videos.
I'm just gonna hit transition here. So you guys can see I had to go to the NDI camera because, well, it was chroma keying and I don't know where the chroma key is right now. So we'll have to fix that. But we've got a gray castle in the air. And this came off of the Ender 3 with the direct drive. It was printed about 60 millimeters per second.
Nice.
We've got Green Guy here. And Green Guy, he looks good. I know it's kind of hard to see. Let's see if we just... Oh, don't get behind, maybe. So you can see, like, the bricks on the wall in the front came out. And everything's nice. Let's see if we can zoom in a bit. See? So we got some nice peaks, good windows. The bridging, the overhang. This guy came off the SX4 at 200 millimeters per second.
That's pretty impressive.
Right? So
a little crazy.
Pretty a little cray. I wanted to test the dampeners, and that was like the one way I knew to make it loud was make it juice it up, make it go quick. So the SX4, if you guys don't know, is as a Core XY, and the Castle in the Airs, if done properly and your printers are in resolution, I know it's gonna look goofy because one's chroma keyed, but snap together so you can see this void where my hand is. So they snap together on the top, and they did perfectly. So the 200 millimeter per second.
That's pretty impressive, really.
It really is. And if you guys are still using Benchy as a benchmark print, get to Castle in the Air, or something a little bit more modern, because especially if you're trying to dial in your printers to fit parts together, Castle in the Air gives you that opportunity to check your tolerances
I
between
like how
printers.
it chroma keys to your Predator.
I know, right? Like, hey, check this out. Whoa. Is that the Predator? What's behind that? Oh, it's
Yeah,
chroma
no,
keying
that's
you. I know where it is. I know where it is, I think. That's
but
funny.
it is kind of funny. It's a good thing you didn't wear a green shirt
I
today.
know, right? Like, I would just be a talking head, like Max Headroom or something like that. So, that just quick speaking of the stuff I worked on this week, one, it takes me about 3 times longer to put screws in. So I worked on the SX4 about 3 hours, 4 hours, to put two stepper dampeners on because I kept dropping.
And I got lots of text from him swearing
I can't get
and
these screws
whatnot.
in. Um, so that was the first. So I just basically uncoupled the stepper from the printer and put those dampener rubbers on it, and you can't hear it now. It's great. It has Trinamic drivers with an SKR 1.3 in there, so it was already quiet-ish, but you could still hear it, especially if you're in the room. It was kind of loud, so that's why we did those. Again, that it probably should have been a 20-minute job, not a like 6 hour. I can't find the
Sure,
screws.
sure, it wasn't quite six
No,
hours, but yeah.
it wasn't. But and then I actually uncoupled one of the stepper couplers because there was a bit of damage, and flipped it. So that was fine. But after doing that, I can run that thing super fast. The Mars Raymond, yeah, 125. So Raymond and I shop at the same places. And there's a company called, they were Hiya, now they're Mamarubot, and that's who make the
No,
XX4.
no, it was isn't the other way around.
Maybe it's the other way around. It's the other way around. Yes, it's the other way around. But that's where the SX4 comes from, and that's where the basically the Mars 2 come from, and those are both Core XY. They're very, the Mars is a little bit okay. It's a lot smaller. The Mars is
So
think your Ender 3 size, and the
yeah,
SX4
yeah.
is giant. But yeah, like
So
they run great.
Perry has a question too about Core XY.
Mm-hmm.
Is it better than another 3D printer? It no, it's different. And that's the beauty of the ecosystem we have. We have your deltas, we have your resin
Mm-hmm.
printers, we have they have their niches where they're really good. If you're doing miniatures, okay, resin makes a lot of sense. If you're doing really big pieces, then a large bed printer makes
Yep.
sense. So I don't think there is one printer. There's printers that are better quality than other printers, but I don't think there's necessarily. And then people have preferences, so it's very hard to say that one is absolutely better than the other. It's like anything. Hondas are way better than Toyotas, right? Like they're both
Yep.
cars,
They are both cars.
and then people have very specific reasons why they like that car, right? So some people say Prusas are the best printers in the world. They're really good printers. I don't own one, but they're very good printers. Doesn't mean they're the best in the world, but they're good. So an Ender, very good printer, right? A,
Yep.
a Legend, not such a great printer,
Well,
but once you tweak it, it's a fine printer.
yes, and
It's not the best printer in the world, but it's not a horrible printer.
I've actually
So
been running it like a lot just because it works now.
yeah,
And I'm like, oh, we'll use that. Um, which is, which is fine. It still doesn't work as good as like other printers, but it's getting there. I'd be interested to see their the B1 just to see what they did with it. Because that came out. They replaced the Legend or whatever with the B1.
yeah. Well, the B1 they've done a lot to it. I gotta give them credit for some of the innovation and what they've done on it. It's definitely a better printer than the Legend was.
Yep. Let's see here. So we got a
Stig has a
question, yeah,
question.
from Stig there. Yeah, he's got getting it's a 100K ohm NTC 3950. So it looks like there's a few options in here. Let's see if we can find the best
I
option.
would love a rail core printer too.
Right.
I think they're pretty cool.
4.7 pull up bed thermistor. That's not a bed thermistor. One
Yeah, so
high sensitive one.
thermistors and whatnot are interesting, especially if you want to go hotter and whatnot. You've got to make sure that you've chosen the right one to keep again. You want to PID them and whatnot. You want to keep your range correct. So knowing the proper setting, like E3Ds thermistor, slightly different than your standard, glass thermistor. So so getting those settings right is important. I know David's just looking up the actual details of this, so I'll just kind of chat for a bit.
Yeah, no, thanks. I looked it up. I did it. I got there finally. So 13 is the answer. Just leave it nondescript. 13. Kidding, guys. So he had 100K and a 3950. So 13 matches the 100K and 3950, and it's for an all metal hot end or all in one hot
There
end.
you go.
So that should do you just fine, sir. When you're looking through the
But then
thermistor list,
PID
yeah,
it.
PID that. When you're looking through the thermistor list too, you can kind of tell and steer away from stuff. So like if you know that yours doesn't have a pickup resistor, or you know that yours is not on a bed, right? Like you can kind of eliminate the options that way. It's interesting. Option 67 now is Slice Engineering's thermistor. Ooh.
Oh, they finally threw the tables in. Good. Yeah, that's the nice thing about Marlin as they evolve, they are putting more and more um, of the better quality thermistors in. You used to have to go in and edit tables to tweak it if you had some strange third party one that you didn't know
Yeah.
but you had the specs for. And so it's really nice that they are constantly, the community is adding and evolving Marlin so well.
Yeah. And I mean, um, the it grows at an aggravating rate, but sometimes it's slow. And what I mean by that is like the newer Trinamic drivers aren't in there yet, but you can use like the old definitions because they will work. It's just you might be missing out on some features. Remember, was it?
I don't think you're missing out on features, because if you look at the 2225s and the
Mm,
2226s, for example, they're basically a 2208 and a 2209 in different
just
pardon me,
packaging. Yeah.
packaging. Um, but I think there were some mods on them, so
Mm-hmm.
you do have to, like, there might be some, chip specific stuff, but for the most part, if you had 2205 or 2225s and you chose 2208, you're fine.
We got a question from Vince, who is driving to Vernon. Do you think the skew correction would tune XYZ steps, or instead step calibration?
I'll leave that one in you because I haven't played with skew too much. I understand what it
Mm.
does, but I haven't really played
So
with it.
let's go. We'll two part this answer. Yes is the first bit of the answer, so that's an easy answer, right? But make sure, here's the second part. But you'll have to make sure you calibrate it. If it's not calibrated, you might as well turn it off because it will introduce issues into your print.
So now, I just want to make sure I got the right feature in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Skew correction, basically, as the print prints, as it goes higher in the print, it corrects
Mm-hmm.
for the
Yeah,
misaligned gantry and whatnot. So the first few layers might not be perfect, or one might be more squished than the other. Then as it moves up, it then
compensates.
straightens it out as you go up the height of the
Yep,
print.
you
Right.
nailed it. That's exactly. And so if let me just find this section here. So skew correction. Yeah. So if you just look up the word skew. So SKEW. And
Because you can set the length that it corrects for, right?
yeah,
The
and
height.
that's what you're tuning in. And there are instructions actually right in that section on what you need to tune it with. They give you a Thingiverse link. So here, just let me. I'm gonna pop it over on this screen here, and we'll just do screen share, screen share, screen share. That one.
Now, I would think though, if you've got your bed and your gantry very parallel, like
Mm-hmm.
you're not that much out, that won't even come into
No.
play because your starting layer and your second layer are going to be so
Yeah.
accurate at that point.
And again, that's why the answer is like yes, but um, I wanna follow the link. I want to follow the link. Um, it can, but again, doing if you're in the end, if you're looking to calibrate your XYZ for flow, it's gonna be your oh, okay. So it's basically an XYZ cube, just missing the top. That's the skew calibration cube that they give you. That's pretty funny. So, yes, and that's in section section calibrate. It's a line 1400 right now, and you can see that mine's off. I don't use it.
Well, and if you do set up your printer and you dial it in, you've got your gantry nice and square to your in relate and parallel in relation to your bed and whatnot. You don't need all these things that compensate for a, unlevel bed and a crooked gantry
Yeah,
and whatnot. So so take some time, get your printer so that it is not skewed off and whatnot, and you'll have better prints just all around.
it's true. But sometimes there's a flaw, there's a manufacturing issue that you just can't square it off all the way. So
Yep.
it's helpful.
Bent lead screw,
Yeah, bent lead screw.
right?
Ugh.
Right, like there's lots of little things that you have to try to compensate for and whatnot. So we get nothing's perfect, and it's almost an art form, right? Like we were talking just before the show started about aligning the pro
Mm-hmm.
points on the bed, and how I got so anal I put masking tape on the center of my bed and then drew an X from corner to corner to find the perfect center, and then tweaked my offsets until my probe was perfectly centered. So it depends if you're OCD
Mm-hmm.
or not.
So Vince is just saying he does a lot of mechanical parts, like with holes, and skew correction can help. Before you even get to skew correction, I would definitely print XYZ cube or Benchy, because you can measure Benchy's roof to see if you're accurate. But me,
I like a simple
yeah,
cube because then you can really and make sure you orientate the cube so that your X, Y, and Z are on the right planes.
yeah, yeah,
Because some of the cubes that come off Thingiverse, when you throw them on
they're backwards.
they're
Yeah,
wrong. So you got to actually turn them. But when you do end up measuring, use your calipers, and then you can get a good idea for are your E steps right? Is your flow rate right? That sort of thing. Because sometimes instead of adjusting for skew and this and that, you just need to tweak a few of the other settings, and then you can bring it really in. Chris Riley had a really good video um, a couple weeks back where he went over some tweaks,
yeah,
and he showed how you calibrate your extruder E-straps and whatnot. But then he went in and showed how you can, depending on how you change your temperature and how you can change your flow rate within Prusa slicer in your slicer to compensate for just that, your dimensions being a little bit out.
Uh,
So it was a pretty good video on that.
I mean, follow. I would go and check our step video out. And again, that
Yeah,
was in the
absolutely.
filament path one, but I'm always leery to use again. And it's the same kind of reasoning behind like should we use skew correction or not. But like if you're using your software to compensate for your hardware, you're going to have an issue in the end because what if your software changes and you don't know it changed? Right?
Yeah,
Like you're gonna. So it's always
yeah,
best to have your hardware tuned to
as
the best you
accurate as
can. Yeah,
possible.
and then
Yeah.
once you have a really good working platform, then you can play. Play is the wrong word. Then you can go into the software and tweak stuff.
Well, and the one thing he pointed out was like maybe you want to increase your speed, or slow your speed and whatnot, and then it changes the dimensions, so then you can play with your flow rate because not everyone has a volcano hot end.
No,
Not everyone has a super volcano. So if you're going to a faster speed, you're going to have to you increase your temperature to melt enough material, but then that could change all your flow rates. So then you're going to have to tweak it. So you got to get balanced reality
with
with
yeah,
desire.
yeah. Yeah, I have no idea why I typed the word flow capital in the comment or the chat. I have no idea. There was no need to. I was yelling flow from the rooftop. Flow. So, but yeah, E steps are what most directly affect your flow rate on the extruder. If you're stepping too much, you're getting over extrusion. If you're not, you're getting under extrusion. So if you're over extruding, your flow is too high. If you're under extruding, your flow is too low. So if you can calibrate your machine to the point where you're happy with like, yeah, I asked for 10 centimeters, I got 10 centimeters, right?
Yeah.
And then once you get that, then you move on to X and Z, or sorry, yeah, X and no. Yeah, XYZ, the cube. Yeah, and then you can see what your E steps are doing on your gantry and your axes. And then once you get
Yeah.
that then you can move in and then start
You
looking at other like skew correction or software.
and if you remove the top and bottom, and you want to see how accurate your wall thickness is,
Mm-hmm.
um, you can print the same XYZ cube without the top, for
Yep.
example, and then you can measure and with zero infill, so you can then measure and see how accurate your flow is with your walls.
Yep.
So
And you can save a bit
another
of
way.
filament too and print those things hollow. If you just add like two more top layers, you can print them hollow. It
Yeah.
works. But holy hey, we've been here a while, Greg, eh?
Yeah.
According to the clock, it's been an
But
hour
we
and a half.
but we've had some great questions. Thanks everyone in chat for participating today, and nice to see everyone. Vince, and have a safe drive,
Yeah.
and Stig and
Pierre.
Raymond and
Yeah.
Pierre, and
Raymond was
yeah, it
Stig.
was
Yeah.
good to see everyone.
Thanks for coming out, y'all. Again, we look if we're available on Facebook. Again, it's not our day job, so we might be maybe a day out from answering some of that stuff, but for sure hit us up. But you guys have been great, like Greg says, and we'll see y'all later.
See you later.